welcome. My name is Navaris, and today I'd like to speak to you about one of the alternative setups for the Magicka Sorcerer build. So previously I was talking to all of you about the Force Pulse and Crystal Fragments rotation, and there are some major benefits to using that rotation considering the Dark Magic skill line. The Dark Magic skill line, the last passive, Exploitation, gives everybody in the group a critical damage buff, so it is beneficial in that way, just using Crystal Fragments. This setup's beneficial to the group as well because it can give more off balance to everybody in the group. However, you should try and coordinate with the rest of the trial group to see whether or not this is actually more beneficial, or if running the Crystal Fragments rotation is better. I'd like to go over a few things. Firstly, I'd like to show DPS Parse. I've got an account on the NA server as well now, so there should be a quick showcase of that as well. Then I'll be going over the gear. I'll also be going over the skills, the champion points very briefly, and then finally I'll go over the rotation. However, unlike the previous video, it won't be quite as long, but I do hope to cover all of those things. So hopefully you enjoy the rotation. The Parse is coming up right now.
Wherever love goes, there is also misery. It's no mystery. And you and I, we got history, yeah. Wherever love flows, there is also tragedy. When we're in too deep. And you and I, we got history, yeah. Go look in the mirror, say, hey, I'm sorry for all the pain. I'm sorry.
History, yeah. And when you're alone, do you say my name or you say her name? Yeah. My love, it grows with the memories like a symphony. And you and I, we got history, yeah. Wherever love goes, there is also tragedy. When we're in too deep.
So just like with one of the older setups that I have on my channel, I'm using a Moondancer lightning staff. I managed to change the trait, thanks for this patch. So basically you put a flame damage enchantment and you want an infused Moondancer. If it's infallible ether, it's just the same damage basically. The damage difference is going to be very minimal, and both will outperform one another in different situations. So if you have one of these staffs, either infallible or Moondancer, you're doing really well. You want a Nirnhoned Lightning Maelstrom back bar, illambris, 2 pieces, both in divines, and because we're not using a crafted set, you're going to have one heavy, one medium of these two. Okay, and then you want your 5 necropotence, all in divines. If you don't have necropotence, another good substitute for that would be Julianos. The damage difference is very small, and the added benefit of having Julianos is if you ever do need to take your pets off, it's going to be a lot easier, a lot simpler. Okay, and Moondancer jewellery here. All of them enchanted with spell damage. All of your gear enchanted with maximum magicka. Okay, and very briefly I'll just go over, at the moment I'm using, I think it's Salmon Solitude. Let's see. So you basically want max health, max magicka food, and I'm using, yeah, Solitude, Salmon, Millet Soup. There's one other that I use, but it's blue food and it just gives you a benefit to max health, max magicka. The potions that I'm using at the moment are Essence of Spell Power, so it's going to give you the spell damage buff, the spell crit buff, and also magicka recovery. All of those you really need, and it will be very beneficial during the trial because you don't have anything else to give you those buffs and without losing DPS. On the front bar we're going to have Daedric Prey, Summon Volatile Familiar, Shock Clench. I'll go over this since I have gone over the previous skills in the last video. So Shock Clench is going to give you a higher off balance uptime. It's going to stack with all of your other shock damage moves. It has the added benefit of stunning some enemies, so it's very beneficial in that way. On the front bar this time we have Hardened Ward. I prefer having the ward on the front bar just because it's more easily accessible and it's with your spammables, so it's going to be much easier to use. And then Bound Aegis, we have this slotted, but we don't actually use the skill any more than once, just to activate it here. That's going to give us a slight resistance buff, but the reason that we really want it is for the maximum resources. Just shown here. Increases your maximum magicka by 8%, so it's going to make a massive difference. And then we have Shooting Star on the front bar. Okay, back bar on the Maelstrom staff we have Blockade of Storms. This is here obviously just because you want to get that added damage from your light attacks, and also Nirnhoned is going to really affect this Blockade of Storms, so it's going to be effective on many enemies, not just one. Liquid Lightning I've spoken about before. You have to double bar the Volatile Familiar and the Bound Aegis. And then Mage's Wrath for the splash damage. This doesn't give you back energy magicka, so it depends on what you prefer, but the difference isn't huge. And then Thunderous Rage. So the champion points down here, I'll just show very briefly each of them. This is also going to be in the description below, just in case you're concerned that you're not going to be able to see everything in time. And for a more in-depth explanation, I've linked my previous video below, so please give that a watch if you just want to try and understand some aspects of it. And again, this is rough, is not going to be perfect, but basically it's what I use and it works quite well, so that's the best advice I can give. Okay, so the final part of this video, I want to go over the rotation. So let's see that. What I tend to do is I take the potion and let it go for a little bit, just so that you can have that extra boost of magicka when you've started. I'm using the lover boon at the moment, and this is the stats that I'm using. Okay, so first thing that I like to do is activate the pet, then I apply drain, and then I bar swap and use the ultimate. So I'll do a full rotation in a moment. Okay, so what I do there is I apply the liquid lightning, I do a light attack wall of elements, then a light attack pet, and as I activate the pet I bar swap, then a light attack curse, and then I hold heavy. While I'm holding heavy, you might have noticed that I tap the clench, that's just so it activates right afterwards, and then I bar swap. And that whole rotation's repeated. The only other things to consider are your potion. To make sure that the uptime of your potion is 100%, you need to be paying attention to that. You also need to be paying attention to your ultimate. When shooting star becomes available, that's when you need to start using it. And around every second rotation, you should be reapplying drain. The reason we reapply drain every second time is because it can be a bit more complicated if we leave it to get less than 10 seconds. So I like to reapply when I know it's around 10 seconds. So like here I would reapply drain, just so that I knew I didn't have to worry, and that tends to be every second rotation. So it's taking the potion, liquid lightning, wall of elements, pet, curse, heavy, and then clench and bar swap. And you might have noticed that I didn't do the drain quite right there, but it's every second time, so it won't be this time. My ultimate's ready. Okay, now it's 10 seconds or less. So I reapply the drain after the clench, and then bar swap. And you might find it slightly difficult to get that light attack in every time when you start off doing this. Over time it will become a bit easier, but the hardest aspect of the whole thing, in my opinion, is just to get the skills in order. Once you've done that, just keep practicing, and the animation cancelling side of things will be natural. You'll just start to do it. I started animation cancelling by block cancelling, you know, blocking after the skill. However, I do think it's actually slightly easier rather to just do the light attack and then skill. And what you're cancelling when you do that is the light attack animation, not the skill. So it might look slower, but it's actually the same speed. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the video. I plan on making a Magplar video sometime soon. The only thing that's really holding me back is some traits still need to be changed, and some skills need to be changed as well. But other than that, it shouldn't take too much longer before I can release one of those videos. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.